Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Here's one of those stories sent to me by everyone, and a happy ending, and something that we're all going to agree on. That never happens, but it happened this time. The beloved New Jersey family farm won't be seized to build housing. A last-minute deal was struck. I talked about this. It's happening out in New Jersey. Eric Conklin wrote this version of the story for NJ.com. But widely reported, a town's controversial attempt to seize a family farm to build affordable housing appears to be dead after the governor announced a deal recently to spare the land. Earlier, the township had approved a plan, and they claimed they were doing this because the state told them they had to, but to build more affordable housing by seizing the family farm on South River Road owned by the Henry family. The township planned to use eminent domain to take the 21-acre farm and then just, cut them a check and say, get out of here. And that's whether the family wanted to sell it or not. A developer was planning on building 6 multi-family buildings and a community center on the site, according to documents. Now, the family's fight to save the farm drew national attention, and rarely do you see something in the news that everyone agrees upon, except for the people in the story who are the antagonists of the story. So the deal to save the farm was reached recently with Andy and Christopher Henry, who are the brothers whose family has owned the property for several generations. Township officials will explore other areas in the municipality where they might be able to build affordable housing other than the family farm. Now, in a statement, the governor said, from the very beginning, I have opposed efforts to seize the Henry family farm through eminent domain. While every town in New Jersey must do its part to resolve our state's affordable housing crisis, these efforts must be pursued thoughtfully and collaboratively. The attorney representing the brothers in a lawsuit against the township said he's confident the deal will be finalized. It's not all carved in stone yet, but they think it is. Andy, one of the brothers, called me this morning, and he was ecstatic. Andy and Chris are overjoyed that we've reached this point, and they've received the support across the board from everybody to have the property removed from the plan. So again, like I said, I will do a story where I'm like, I'm pretty sure everyone will agree on this, but there's always somebody, oh, no, Steve, you've got to look at the other viewpoint. I highly doubt too many people are going to chime in, except trying to be funny, in the comments below the video and say anything other than, yeah, let them keep their farm. Your home is your castle. Your family's home is your family's castle. The deal appears to hinge on a change in a New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency rule that will make it possible to use other land in the township for affordable housing. And that's what local officials said. So they were saying, hey, look, our hands were tied until they changed the rule. And they're going to finalize the new rule by the end of the year. Now, the governor says New Jersey's family farms are an essential and deeply cherished part of our state's history. The governor thanked a long list of people for working in good faith to reach this resolution. And they, you have to understand, everyone who heard the story, as far as I know, except for, like I said, the antagonists in the story, think that they shouldn't lose their farm. It was national news. There were people in Washington, people in New Jersey, and people in the other states who were saying, that's ridiculous. But we've all heard of that before. But eminent domain as a concept can make sense. So there are times where they've, put a highway through an area and they got to buy up the property. And sometimes some people don't want to sell. But we've heard of the crazy examples. The little pink house story is one where the Supreme Court said, oh, yeah. If you want to knock down some homes to put the property and make it available for a company to... Here, they're gonna tear down an old farm that's been around for generations to put in affordable housing. And you're telling me there's no place else in that township where you can put affordable housing? So the fight to save the farm drew the attention of everybody over the summer, including federal officials who were looking into whether or not it was legal to even use eminent domain to acquire A farm. It turns out there's a federal statute called the Farmland Protection Policy Act. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture actually was looking into this and saying, hey, look, we're going to take a look at this because you might be violating federal law by taking a farm. So the end to the proposed land takeover still awaits a formal settlement, according to a notice filed in court recently by an attorney for the township, and that was shared by the administration of the governor. Meanwhile, township officials have agreed not to proceed with acquiring land, according to court papers. The plan appears contingent upon the state relaxing a warehouse buffer rule. The rule bans affordable housing projects within at least 250 feet of large warehouse property lines. And the rule was previously cited as one of the reasons that the Henry Farm was the only option for building affordable housing in this township. And I saw diagrams and maps of where this farm is, and it's surrounded, in many respects, by commercial property. And one of the things you have to understand is that developers have repeatedly approached the brothers asking them to sell their land for the last 3 decades because of the fact that it is near the New Jersey Turnpike and Route 130. And their attorney says that land, because of its location, would be worth around $5 million, but it's not for sale. That's the thing you have to understand. Once in a while, courts are forced to assign a value to something that nobody wanted to sell, but to force someone to sell something they don't want to sell really needs to be a last resort, an absolute last resort. So I'm very happy about this outcome. The mayor of Cranberry says this adjustment is meaningful. The adjustment creates a meaningful opportunity for Cranberry to evaluate alternative sites to the farm while continuing to meet our state-mandated affordable housing obligations with transparency and fiscal responsibility. So they're saying, look, if these rules are relaxed as to where we can build someplace else. But these rules are so strict. But you got to ask yourself, when you limit how close you can put affordable housing to, say, a warehouse, are you protecting the warehouse or the affordable housing? And it seems to me that affordable housing, perhaps you could put it within 250 or 300 feet of a warehouse. It's affordable. One of the reasons it might be affordable is because it's not in the greatest of locations. Remember what they say about real estate. So the Fair Share Housing Center, which helps oversee the state's affordable housing plan, thanked the two sides for reaching an agreement on sparing the farm. The statement thanked the township and the Henry family for working toward an agreement that would eliminate the use of this farm site in its affordable housing plan and any use of eminent domain on the site. So last month, township officials said they vetted other sites, hinting that the use of eminent domain to acquire the farm would end, and they may have to use eminent domain someplace else. But of course, if they find another site that's suitable, first I'm assuming they'll approach the owner and say, do you want to sell? We'd like to buy. And then, of course, if that doesn't work, then they take a look at it. But under the state's guidelines, New Jersey needs to add 146,000 affordable housing units, and that would include 265 units in Cranberry. Township officials said they were challenged by a lack of available land that would meet state requirements for construction. Other possible areas had other restrictions or didn't qualify for federal tax credits, which apparently they need to get the construction costs paid for. So the interesting thing here is, on the one hand, they're looking for federal tax credits, and meanwhile, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the federal U.S. Department of Agriculture, is saying, by the way, you might be violating federal law when you're seeking to destroy that farmland. And so you got the feds on the one hand, and on the other hand, and you really got to stop and think about this stuff. So U.S. agricultural officials contended the township was required to abide by laws protecting farmlands if federal dollars are used to build the housing community. So there you go. Meanwhile, the brothers assumed their family's farmland back in 2012, a few years ago. They said they've pumped more than $200,000 into maintaining it, and they do live in New Mexico, but they lease the land for tenants who do raise sheep and cattle on the farm. So the farm is being used as a working farm. No question about that. It's been in the family for generations, and it's one of those situations where if you saw a time lapse, like, I don't know, in the movie Time Machine or something, you would see a farm and then stuff growing up around it to the point where the nature of the area has changed. But the farm was there first. And there is something to be said for if it's your farmland, or it's your home, or it's your real estate, or it's your property, there's something to be said for that. And one of the things I've told you before is that in the law, there are things, I've talked before, about things that are fungible, okay? You got one, you got another, they're the same. Take your pick, it doesn't matter. Some things are absolutely not works of art, okay? So if you have the Mona Lisa, you can't come along and go, I'm just going to give you another painting for that because a painting's a painting. No. They're unique, okay? Likewise, the courts in the U.S. treat property, real estate, as unique. Now, I'll grant you that if you said, Steve, I'm going to show you some real estate in a state where the ground is as flat and as straight and as broad, so far as the eye can see, it looks like a flat surface. And we're going to cut it up into chunks, and it's going to be basically like a big checkerboard, and there's nothing out there except for dirt. It's been scraped or whatever. And we're going to build on it, and I sell you one square, and you bought this square. Later on, somebody accidentally builds on your square. We've had this happen. Can I just give you another square? A lot of people would say, sure, except for the other square is not the same as your square. They might both be square. They might both be the same size, the same dimensions, but they're different. And as you know, most real estate is not the big flat checkerboard, okay? There's something unique about that farm, I assure you. And so you can't say, oh, this many acres here, we'll just give you this many acres here. It's the same thing. It's not the same thing. And I suspect, and again, I'll have to admit, it's been a while since I've been to New Jersey. But I suspect that this farm, generations old in New Jersey, is very unique. And I'm purposely pointing out that you're going to say, Steve, it can only be unique. Unique is a qualifier that you either are or not. You can't be more unique or less unique. You're unique. I'm purposely saying it is very unique because of the fact that as time has gone by, more and more farmland got turned into subdivisions and warehouse areas or factory property. There's less and less farmland as time goes by, making an old farm like this substantially unusual, i.e., I bet it's unique. So I'm glad they stopped the plans to seize it. I hate to hear that happening to anybody for any reason. And it seemed even crazier to say, yeah, we're doing it for affordable housing. We can put it anywhere. We just want to put it on your farm. Okay, they say that they couldn't just put it anywhere. But working with the feds, working with all the other stakeholders, apparently they can put it someplace else. So saved. The beloved New Jersey family farm will not be seized to build housing, that is the low-income housing or affordable housing, under the last-minute deal. Eric Conklin wrote that for NJ.com, and pretty much everybody sent it. Thank you very much. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. New beginnings are often disguised as painful endings.